Hello, I'm Kate Freeman and this is the Daily Dollop. On this episode of the Daily Dollop, we're going to talk bloating. That lovely little abdomen pop out that occurs after you eat. I'm going to discuss what it is, what causes it, and what you can do about it. Well, thanks for joining me on the Daily Dollop today. What a fabulous day it is. My name's Kate Freeman. I'm a registered nutritionist and the founder of the Healthy Eating Hub. And fun fact about me is that I really love camping. And I've only just started loving it as an adult, probably the last 4-5 years. My family and I have started camping and we needed a really great outdoor outlet for my son, who is just very active and energetic. And his teachers say he's enthusiastic on his report card, but I know he's just hardworking in class, and so he needs lots of wide open spaces. So we started camping. But it has been one of the best things that my family has done. And I'm actually going camping this weekend after recording this episode, which I'm so excited about. No tech, no appointments, nowhere to be, just the outdoors. Wonderful. So good. My parents will hate hearing this because I actually hated camping as a teenager and used to whinge about it all the time. But I love it now, guys. What? All right. Well, on to today's show where we're chatting bloating, and it's a really interesting topic to chat about because it's something that people have just become more and more aware of over the last few years or so, in particular as gut health has become super duper trendy. But bloating is something that occurs in all of us at some point or another. The challenge with bloating is that it can be perceived in a myriad of different ways by different people. Some people might get the same level of bloating as another person and that doesn't bother them because they're just not aware of it. It doesn't cause any pain. Whereas that same amount of bloating in another person makes them feel self-conscious or uncomfortable, etc. And the reason why you've become bloated also makes a difference to how you perceive that bloating, your quality of life and things like that. So bloating can be something that occurs regularly, so every single day. Bloating can come and go. Bloating can happen randomly and then you not feel bloated at all. So the thing is what I'm going to do is summarize the top key reasons why you might be bloated and just talk through when it might be a good time to go and actually seek some professional health advice to investigate more serious reasons as to why you might be experiencing bloating. So the thing that you need to remember, and I talked about this in a previous episode on gut health, is that the gastrointestinal system of organs is extremely complex. The gastrointestinal tract is an incredibly long tract from your mouth all the way to your anus. There are lots of organs involved, but essentially the goal of your gastrointestinal tract is to consume, break down, digest, absorb, and eliminate food. And so it's normal from a very basic level for your abdomen, where a lot of your gastrointestinal tract sits, so your small intestine, your large intestine, your stomach, etc., for that to increase and decrease in size depending on how much food is just in your gastrointestinal tract. And the best way to think about it is if you've been unfortunate enough to have caught a gastro bug where you've had, excessive diarrhea and vomiting for a few days, you'll know just how empty you feel on the inside, and you might put on a pair of jeans that typically feel tight when you're feeling normal and healthy, and after 3 days of gastro, right, you can do your jeans up and they don't feel as tight. That's simply because your gastrointestinal tract is empty, right? It's everything that's been in there has been fully eliminated. So it's natural that when you start to eat again, that, you know, all of a sudden your abdomen fills out as there's food stuff inside your gastrointestinal tract. So bloating to a certain extent is actually normal, and it's just the coming and going of food inside that tract. The other thing you need to remember is that the gastrointestinal tract is really long, and the transit time definitely varies between individuals, but it's at least 24 to 48 hours long. So that means it can take up to 2 days for a food that you ate to get all the way through and then eliminated out into the toilet bowl at the end. And so if you think about that, over 48 hours, it's pretty easy for us to consume at least 6 meals and a handful of snacks. And yeah, if that's still inside you, it makes sense that there would be some kind of bloating or distension in the abdomen as your gastrointestinal tract is fully filled with food and foodstuffs at every stage in the tract. But what are the key things I want to talk about when it comes to bloating and more broadly gut health is the woo. And you know I love to talk about woo on this show because the woo is what's causing so much problems. That was very bad English. The woo is causing a lot of problems in our day and age. People are feeling super confused about what's healthy to eat, what's not healthy to eat, who do they believe. Advice is contradictory and confusing. And the problem is that a lot of the advice, particularly around gut health, is about eliminating foods. You know, so just cut out bread or potato, rice, and pasta is definitely the cause of your bloat. You know, like X food will cause, you know, this to happen to your gut, and Y food will mean that that's definitely why you're feeling, you know, sluggish in your bowels or something like that. But the truth is that your gut health is a lot more complicated than individual foods, and it's more likely that the bloating that you feel is a combination of different factors that have built up over time, or a build-up of different food parts that have been malabsorbed. So I'm going to talk through a couple of different reasons, but I just want to give you a really quick illustration of how repeating really poor woo and poor information just spirals out of control to the point of utter confusion. I spoke at a gym many years ago, and when I went to this particular gym, I had examples of portion sizes of different foods. So I had, like, you know, proteins and carbohydrates and fruits and veggies. And so in the carbohydrates, I had 1 serve of pasta in a bowl, just to illustrate that as part of my talk. And once I finished the talk, a lady came up to me to chat, and she's sort of like pointing at all the foods, like, oh yeah, I like eating that, and I eat that. And then she pointed at the pasta and she's like, I've just cut that out of my diet a few weeks ago. Now that doesn't surprise me because people try cut out pasta all the time because social media says pasta is bad and it's a carbohydrate, and, you know, go watch and listen to the carbohydrate episodes for my thoughts on that. So that didn't surprise me, but I always am curious as to know why, because she thinks she's making me happy by telling me she's cut out carbs, where I was like, oh, really? Like, why are you not eating pasta? She's like, oh, isn't it bad for you? I was like, no, it's actually not. You know, why do you think it's not not good for you? And she's like, oh, well, I've just been really struggling with this neck pain just the last few weeks. Yeah, just really sore and like tight in my neck. And she looks at me full serious and she's like, do you think it's the pasta? And I was like, no. And I tried not to laugh, and it seemed silly. And the reason I found it funny was I was just so shocked that because of all of the misinformation on the internet, this woman had started experiencing a tight neck and neck pain, and now she's blaming it on pasta, and she's cut that out of her diet, when the pasta has nothing to do with her neck pain, and it's more likely stress, or she's pulled a muscle because she's, you know, new to the gym and things like that. So you've got to be really careful about the advice that you listen to and read on the internet around this stuff. It's way more complicated than just like, oh, it's bread. All right, please know that. So here are the 6 reasons of why you're so bloated. The first one is that you ate too much. So if you're going to put a large amount of food into your gastrointestinal tract, it's natural that it is going to distend. It has to go somewhere. It doesn't disappear once it goes inside you. It's still there. It's just inside your stomach and your intestines, etc. When food goes into your stomach, it triggers what's called Peristalsis Movement. And so everything that was in your upper intestines now moves on through to make room for this new meal that just came into your stomach. And if you've been dieting and restricting, and now you've gone out for dinner, or you've overeaten at a particular meal, or had lots of snacks, you know, particularly a high carbohydrate meal because you've been restricting and you're really hungry, yeah, it's natural that you are going to feel bloated because you put a large amount of food into your gastrointestinal tract, and that's simply all that happened. Nothing bad happens. It's just that you've got a couple of days worth of food in there. You overate. Simple as that. The second reason why you might be bloated is you're stressed. So stress and your gut are highly, highly connected. It's why you feel butterflies when you're nervous. It's why you might need to go to the toilet if you're feeling worried, etc. So it's highly likely that some kind of bloating might be connected to stress that you're feeling and just things not feeling great in your gastrointestinal tract. Simplifying life, getting some help with your mental health can really, really help eliminate gastrointestinal symptoms. And sometimes they can be a perpetuating cycle. So you feel anxious, it upsets your stomach, which then makes you feel more anxious, right? And the cycle continues. The third reason why you might be bloated is because you've eaten too many Fodmaps. Now, Fodmaps are a group of medium to short chain carbohydrates or sugars. Now, these carbohydrates are what we call malabsorbed by most of us, but some more so than others. When they aren't fully absorbed, it means they end up in your large intestine where all the bacteria are, and your bacteria ferments them and can cause a lot of gas and subsequent bloating. Other symptoms can be diarrhea, pain, distension, and discomfort. So one of the most evidence-based treatments for managing IBS, or irritable bowel syndrome, which is commonly associated with symptoms like bloating and diarrhea and pain and wind, is a low FODMAP diet. So it's reducing the amount of these sugars and carbohydrates that are in your diet, found in perfectly healthy foods. The fourth reason why you might be bloated is you're constipated. So remember, things have got to be eliminated out the other end. If you haven't gone to the toilet in a couple of days, you're now got all of those days worth of food building up in your gastrointestinal tract. So be mindful of that. Fiber, fluid, and physical activity are the 3 key things to get your bowels moving. You can get really good individualized advice for constipation from an accredited practicing dietitian. And fun fact about constipation is that 25% of Western culture are constipated. That's a lot of backed up people just freely walking the streets. Fifth reason is too many fizzy drinks. So the gas in fizzy drinks can just build up inside your gut. If you haven't burped it out, it's still in there. And that gas can build up in your large intestine and cause wind and bloating and discomfort. Lastly, you holding in your farts. True story. If you are eating a high quality whole foods diet, lots of vegetables, fruits, legumes, whole grains, nuts and seeds, all of that lovely fiber is feeding your gut bacteria. They're creating volatile fatty acids and other gases. You got to let the farts out, man. Otherwise they build up in there, and that can be a cause of bloating as well. Just to wrap up, like I said, gastrointestinal symptoms can be a trigger of something really mild, like I said, such as overeating or a Fodmap intolerance, but it could be an indicator of something more serious, like inflammatory bowel disease, celiac disease, or a bowel obstruction. So make sure you go and check out your symptoms thoroughly with your GP. Get a second opinion from another GP if you want to feel confident, and then make sure you seek advice from a qualified, accredited practicing dietitian around your gut health. Absolutely important. Otherwise, guys, have a think about some of the reasons why bloating might occur, and if they apply to you, make some little tweaks and then see how you feel. Well, that's it for today's episode. Leave me a review if you're loving it and share this podcast with a friend, and we will see you in the next episode.